The recording is now. So yesterday we finished with something practical, which was what is it that you should be practicing? And I said two things. One is meditation. And the reason for meditation is that it keeps your focus here, not what happened, and not imagining what might happen. And there are good reasons for that, because as we discussed, when we are looking at things, and the example I gave you was when you drove here from home today, how many red cars did you see? So you see little and make up the rest. That is what your memory is. And the other thing we said yesterday is that people uniquely, animals don't do this, but we believe on the basis of hearing and not experiencing. If you experience, it's better, but if today I say to you, well, if you go that way, there's a big traffic jam and you're going to be stuck, you'll believe it. You haven't experienced it, you haven't seen it, you haven't heard about it, but you'll believe it and go the other way. So if in that scenario, you spend your time thinking about things that have happened, which you don't know for sure or fully, or you dream about what might happen. If I say this, this will happen, or if I had said this, this might have happened. And you sit there in either something that is a dream or something that is not a reality, it's an imagination. Then what happens is that binds karma. And in Jainism, did you notice every verse by mind, speech, and body, doing myself, asking somebody else to do, they're all equal. You don't have to kill me with a knife, you just have to think about it. It's equal. And the reality of it is that if you want to kill me, you might miss. But your intention is there, so that intention gives you the same karma as if you've done it. So if you sit and think about it, what do you think happens? It binds that karma, and what do you think happens then? You get the same experience again and again and again. Okay? So the way out of this is simple. Firstly, meditate, even 10 minutes a day. And the two ways we discussed, if you put a candle and sit and look at the tip, and every time your mind starts wandering, bring it back, keep looking at it. After a time, you will find that this is easy. You'll be able to do more and more and more. Or use other techniques. If you close your eyes and you're breathing, every time you breathe, the air passes through your skin, just under your nose. If you focus hard enough, you can feel the breath, you can feel the sensation of coolness or heat as it passes. That focus means that your mind stays here. Now, does that mean you don't sin when you're here? No, it means that you're doing it consciously. When you're daydreaming, you're not conscious. When you're having nightmares or dreams at night, you're not conscious. If you look at the Pratikraman you're supposed to do in the morning, it's for the dreams you had at the night that you were unaware of. Okay? So when you do things consciously, that's fine. That's your decision. This is to stop you spending all your time doing that. And the example we gave was that you've spent years saving up and you just bought this amazing new car, except somebody scratched it as they were passing. And if you take that, what is your reaction going to be? Anger, hatred, frustration. You'll sit there and think, I hope he has a crash and I hope he gets a puncture and he's stranded somewhere and the police catch him. And what are you doing? This has already happened. You're helping yourself to karma. That means it's going to happen again. And as we said yesterday, what else are you going to do? You add a bit of masala to it, and then you phone all your friends and tell them, what are you doing again? All of these things do nothing for you. There might be an expectation that it buys you sympathy or people feel sorry for you, whatever. They do nothing for you. They give you karma. That karma will do it again. But the other thing we talked about yesterday was what keeps you out of this apart from meditation. if all your thoughts are based around 3 or 4 things, gratitude. Now, you might say, well, I've just had my car crashed. How can I have gratitude? Well, you've afforded that car. You probably have the money to repair it. And having that car means that you're doing better than 90% of the rest of the world. Have gratitude. Have compassion. The person who did it, you have no idea what they're going through. You have no idea what situation they're in. Have love. Have forgiveness. Now, if you forgive, what's going to happen? At the point of forgiveness, all this Michami Dukram we keep saying, at the point of forgiveness, your mind releases that thought. It's not for them, it's for you. Once you release the thought, then you don't sit and think about it. If you don't sit and think about it, you don't bind karma. It's for you, it's not for them. And if you have that sort of attitude, then basically what happens is over time, you actually get to the point where it becomes your nature. You're seen as a person that lives in gratitude, and if that's your nature, guess what? That's going to be the nature of things around you. One question you might have is, well, if somebody's done that to me, how can I forgive them? It's a normal question. The answer is simple. Why did it happen? Because of your karma. If you want to progress, the first thing you have to acceptance is very important, is that what happens to you is not because of somebody. It is not some God punishing you. It is not bad luck. There's no such thing. And it is not you having, some kind of curse or somebody has, given you the evil eye, or it is your karma, full stop. So when you accept that this has happened, what you're doing is accepting that I have released my karma. Now, if you release your karma, then what happens? That karma has gone. And you see, if you live life in that way, then over time, what happens to the load of karma that you have? It reduces. But these things that happen that you don't like start to reduce automatically. And what you start to get into is something called synchronicity. So what synchronicity means is that if you walk to the bus stop, within a minute, the bus turns up, the one that you want. And you step onto the bus and there is a seat right where you want to sit. Right? This, what you might call good luck, is not good luck, it's good karma. And that starts to happen. But for you to even recognize it, you have to be here. So when you walk around with headphones, watching a YouTube video or TikTok video, and unaware of everything, you are missing everything and binding karma. Because if you're getting upset or angry or whatever watching this film, what are you doing? That's what you have to think about. That's all it does. So when you think about your reaction to things like somebody scraping your car, what you have to think about is, why does this happen? And the reason it happens is attachment. We talked about attachment yesterday. Attachment is called rag. Bhagwan Mahavir is called vitrag, without attachment. And this whole book that we have done is about removing your attachments. So every time you have an attachment, attachments come with expectations. So when you buy that car, it's a status symbol. It's something to show to your friends and family. It's something that gives you, a personality in some ways. And when it's scratched, what will people think? How can this be something that I drive up in? So the attachment has expectations. When those expectations don't happen, then what happens is it leads to your anger and disappointment. And the other way, it can also work the other way. So we talked yesterday about this idea of children and family. Now, when you think of children and family, what happens there is, again, you think of children as my children. It wasn't that long ago, in fact, even in my lifetime, where it was normal for people to have their children kind of grow up without even realizing that that's what happens. You know, living with your uncles or other friends or whatever, people just grew up within where they were. Okay? Now we attach my to everything. So these are my children. And those children, again, come with this idea of attachment. How you might think. Well, when you have children, what you start thinking about is, you know, they'll be well behaved, they'll go to the best schools, they'll be really good at their education, they'll, you know, be wonderful in sports, they'll get a great career, they'll, you know, look after me in my old age, etc., etc., etc. And when this happens, what really happens is those become your expectations. And those expectations, because now you're outsourcing, remember that, become your happiness and your sadness. When somebody says something about your child, suddenly you're happy or unhappy. You know, oh, what a wonderful child, or he's such a spoiled brat. And so your happiness is no longer your own, because you're living by an attachment and an expectation that you have set. And in that expectation, what really happens is that you basically grow up, or, you know, whilst the kids grow up, go through a life of ups and downs together with their ups and downs. Now, why is that unusual? Or why is that illogical? I think that's a good. Because when you think about life and life here, Hindu Dharma is slightly different from us. Because Hindu Dharma has this thing called God. And God can mean that he can give you life anyway. In Jain Dharma, life only comes from karma. And what karma gives you is three things: your ayush, the length, the gotra, the family, and the naam, the body that you have. These things are you, all built on karma. So today, if you cheat and you lie and you're deceitful, there's a kind of birth you'll get for that. And if you're all simple and honest and transparent, there's a different type of birth. All depends on karma. That means that at the end of this life, where you go next, and where everybody that you know goes next, is different, because they've all bound different karma. Logically, it also means that the kids and the family that you have today are here for this life. Yes? And yet, you put attachments, add expectations to those attachments, and then lead a life of ups and downs based on that. If you have two kids and you put them in the same school, are they going to do the same academically? So doesn't that tell you that what you do on the outside does not affect the outcome? The outcome is not affected by that. The outcome is affected by what's on the inside, karma. If you have a lot of karma, studying might be difficult. And if it's light, you only have to read the book once and you've memorized. It's karma. So in this scenario, if you then attach to that karma my child is going to come first in class, do you know how much karma they have? No. But you put an expectation. And when they don't, you become upset. And if they do, you become happy. So this idea of putting everything to your attachment means when the person scratches your car, that's an outside thing that you have an expectation that this is going to be the best car anybody's got, and people are going to see this as my status symbol. And that suddenly gives you huge amounts of unhappiness. And what do you do with that unhappiness? You sulk over it, you get anxious, you have these things about how I'm going to kill this. We're all cowards, by the way. We don't do anything, we just think about it. Okay, remember that. But, and that's why I keep saying, mind, speech, or body, thinking and doing are the same. From karma point of view, they're the same. So you bind that karma and it happens again. And you see this cycle repeating again and again and again. That, you have what you might call bad luck, and then again, bad luck, and again, bad luck. It's not bad luck. It's that you're stuck in this cycle. So when you think about this, what I would tell you is the way to think about this is this, that when something like that happens, firstly, whatever it is, whether it's a car, it's anything happens, firstly, start with the sentence, this is my karma. That's ownership. It's your fault. Why is it your fault? Because it's your karma. If you didn't have that karma, it wouldn't happen. Why would it happen? Because in some life or at some time you've hit somebody else's car. You've bound that karma, and now your car is getting hit. Same thing. Now, if you've bound this karma, the second thing is, and we always do this, we worry about the other person, right? Why did they do this to me? Why do you have to worry? Their karma will look after them. Why do you need to add more karma to worry about them? Their karma is going to sort them out. You don't have to wish evil on them and go and punch them and go and hit their car. It's not necessary, especially if you want to move forward. On the, if any of you read or follow things like Christianity, in the Bible, when Jesus was on the cross and they had crucified him and they were killing him, what did he say? Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. They don't know what karma they're binding. Forgive them. Because, again, same thing. They're going to suffer the consequence of doing what they've done. So if that is the scenario that is there, then the question is, why do you have to interfere? Bhagwan Mahavir spent 12 years in meditation before he got Kevalnam. What did he do for 12 years? Nothing. He stood in one place and meditated. He didn't interfere in other people's lives. He didn't give lectures. He didn't go and buy things. He didn't go and just, because the more you do that, the more attachment, the more views, the more gossip, and if you, now you might say, well, life is going to get very boring. This is about progress in your life, making your life better, okay? And from that perspective, you have to think about that. So when you have kids, how do you handle this in terms of kids? I was watching Sadhguru, I said yesterday, on Instagram. One of the things he said is when you have children, you should always remember that they come through you, not to you. That you have given, but you have a duty, you have a responsibility, but they are not there as an extension. They're there because you've decided to have kids. And if that's the case, then you should also remember that when we think about karma, the key thing to think about is that it has no name. It is not that, for example, I do something to Amit, I shout at him, and the reaction is that he will shout at me. That's not the case. By doing anything, I bind the karma and I will suffer it this life, next life from anybody. So even when you're kind to somebody who is unkind, you're just putting out kindness. That kindness is going to bind kindness karma. And that kindness karma means at some point somebody will be kind to you. It doesn't mean it's that person. What we do is we have this habit. It is a habit. It's a problem in many cases of putting this word like and don't like to everything. Nothing comes with a like or don't like. If I look at this laptop, I might say, oh, I love this color. And Amit might say, I hate this color. I wish it was black. The laptop did not come with a tag. You should like me or not like me. It's an opinion that we put. And then when we put that opinion, we have an opinion about that opinion. I don't like that person because the way they dress and what they said and whatever. So when you think about these kids that you have, then what happens with those kids is this, that if you treat them like everybody else from the point of view that you're always kind, compassionate, loving, in gratitude, forgiving, and so on, that becomes who you are, and that becomes what happens to you. Now, the way to think about this is this, that when you stand in front of a mirror, okay, when you stand in front of the mirror, if you want that person in the mirror to smile, the only way to do it is for you to smile. And it's the same with everything else. If from the inside you become a loving, caring, forgiving, compassionate person, what happens from outside is that that's what gets reflected back to you. And you will find, amazingly, that everybody you meet is like that to you. Nobody actually has a bad word to say. They'll always come and say something nice and always be kind and when you need help, they're always there. When something happens, everything happens because that is the reflection you're putting into the mirror. If you do that with people you like, oh, I like this person, I'll be nice to them, but I don't like that person, then you're still binding that karma of not being nice or being angry or being, judgmental. That's what people will do back to you. What you give, you get. That's it. It's really simple, okay? And when you think about that, once you start doing that, there is one thing that happens, which is that when something happens to you, your car gets crashed, what you do is you stop reacting. Yesterday, I said to you, there are only two things that you have in terms of your free will. A lot of things will happen, but if you think about why it happens, you bind karma today, tomorrow it happens. So that's part of your free will. This is destiny you have created. Everything that happens, listen to this, everything that happens, you have created through your thoughts, your words, and your actions that have bound the karma that is going to give you that experience. Okay? And the second is when that experience happens, you have a choice. You can either react, start swearing and shouting and whatever, or not react. So, Bhagavan Mahavir, if you read Acharana Sutra and you view into those things, Acharana is the first agam in our book. It's the oldest. It's thought to have been written at the time of Bhagavan Mahavir. It talks about his life, not in the way we now see it with all these, lotus petals and gods and whatever. It talks about it from a very realistic perspective. And it says that what he did was actually go into tribal areas that were dangerous because he wanted to test his ability not to react when something happened. And what happened? Dogs came and bit him. People hit him with sticks, all sorts of things, and he didn't react. And that was a test of his evolution. How far has he gone? It's the same for us. If you stop reacting, you're making a choice. If you're making a choice, then you are setting your own destiny. If you're not doing that, but if you're reacting, and in most times we react when we're not present. We're kind of lost in something happens, we react. You're at home, you're late for somewhere, the kids drop something on the floor, it makes a big mess, you react. That's a reaction. On other days, you'll say they're kids, these things happen, life goes on. That reaction is what is now your destiny, your future. So in this, it's the one key thing to remember, that all of this actually is your future. And when you do these things for yourself, it is not as attractive as trying to impress everybody, but it actually makes your path much easier. Now, when you think about that path, there are two things that you need to think about if that is the case. But the people you have in your life, why are they there? Because don't forget what we said. They come from somewhere. You have this life with them and they'll go somewhere else. So in Hindu Dharma, they believe in this 7 years or 7 lives of marriage. That's Hindu Dharma. They have a God who can fix that. We don't. We only have karma. Okay? So in karma, it's not possible. Now, sometimes when you read stories, you will see this. It is doing it to teach you the principle of what you do, you will get back. It's teaching you the principle, keeping it simple by keeping the characters the same. In reality, they're not the same. So if that happens, why are they in your life? They're there for one simple reason. And I'll tell you by way of an analogy, that today, if we go swimming, and you go into the pool, and it's a lovely warm pool, the people who can swim will swim into the pool. And the people who cannot swim will stand on the edge and hold on tightly. Yes. What is the difference? That you have learned the lesson. So everybody you meet, there's no luck, there's no bad luck, there is no coincidences, there is no evil God. They're there for a reason. And the reason is they're either there to help you or they're there to teach you. And by teaching you, what they're showing you is like the swimming, that you have something that is perhaps uncomfortable to start with, but once you learn to overcome it, it will never be a problem again. You just go and jump in the deep end. You don't even have to get down in the shallow end. It's not a problem. But you have to learn the lesson. So they're there to teach you a lesson. If you learn the lesson, you stop being triggered. By triggered, I mean every time you see them, you think, oh, why are they here? Who invited them? Can't they dress properly? Why are they wearing? All these things start. And when this starts, what are you doing? Karma. Every thought is karma. If you see them and you're in this habit of gratitude, compassion, forgiveness, love, you'll go and say Jai Jinendra and move on. End of life, end of story, move on. That thing to stop means you have to learn the lesson of how to deal with such people, how to handle the situation. The same way you have to learn how to swim. Once you've learned it, you don't even think twice about, I'm going to a swimming pool. Whereas if you haven't learned it, the anxiety starts from before you've even got in. And you're in the changing rooms and you're anxious and you're going down holding the ladder and then you're holding the side. It's because you haven't learned. So in all of this, that is the key. That think of these as the tests that you have to pass once you pass them, it never becomes a problem again. Once it stops being a problem, again, your life becomes simpler. And with that sort of person, you stop minding karma. If you stop minding it, you will not encounter those sorts of people again, because they have nothing to teach you. And they have nothing that they can help you with. So they come and pass through, you don't even notice that they're there. And that moves you further along. The purpose from a Jain perspective is this, that all of life is only about one thing. It is to move so that you are at a higher place when you leave than when you came. You know, when people die and they have pratna here, and if you listen to some of the songs, interesting words. They talk about, you came alone and you've gone alone, but we don't live like that. We live like we're never going to die, and we live like all of this is ours and is always going to be ours. The reality of this is really simple, that if you can get yourself into a situation where your focus is what's on your inside and not the world outside, that inside will change the power in you, the thoughts in you, the feelings, the way you are, the way you interact. That process, because what is the purpose of this body? The purpose of this body is to help you experience the karma you have bound so you can get rid of them. If you remember, I said to you yesterday that it's interesting. This is the same body that can give you moksha and can also send you to hell. The same body, depending on what you do with it. If you change your inside, you learn how to do these things, you become that. It's not that you will see people change, you will see your world change, because your world now has to reflect what you are to help you experience the karma that you've bound. If you do good things all the time, you have to go to a world where there is good things. It's a bit like, we talk about Mahavidya Kshetra. I hope you've heard about Mahavidya Kshetra. So we say Mahavidya Kshetra, there is up to 20 Tirthankars, and those Tirthankars can, because they're there, you can achieve moksha. So there has to be a place where somebody who's about to get moksha can go to. That is where they've reached. Similarly, there has to be a place, even here, that you have to get to if what is inside you is like that. Love and compassion and forgiveness and gratitude. And what that does is that it just changes the life around. So change doesn't come by you trying to fix things. It comes by fixing yourself. And if any of you are Michael Jackson fans, he had a song called Man in the Mirror. That's all it is. Fix the man in the mirror and everything changes. We have about 10 minutes. There's a question at the back. Jai Jinendra.
Question is in two parts.
Okay.
First part is, can I please ask you, are you present during the revolution during the daytime here, or do you just come on this particular time?
I'm being coerced into coming during the daytime, so I will be, yes. I haven't been for the last 4 days.
Okay, you haven't been in the last 4 days. Can I please ask why? Is that something?
No, the reason is that I have other spiritual and other things that I do in the morning, and then I come here in the evening for Pratikraman.
Okay. Can I also please ask you to cover the vow number 7 that we have covered today?
Yeah.
So I would like to ask you that as you must be aware of this particular place, maybe more aware about it more than I can be, but I'm always volunteer here. But what I wanted to ask you, when you talk about vow 7, what would you advise and suggest in making sure that we should be actually practicing that?
Remind me what vow 7 is?
Yes, the vow 7 is about the fact of how we basically eat, and, do things in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah,
From tea, coffee.
yes.
To.
No, I can give you that on a very practical one. So the purpose, you see, let me give you the dilemma that I see, and all of us, including me, that when you look at these anuvrats and you look at what sadhus take, mahavrats, the mahavrats are absolute. You cannot do and that's it. You have to live by it. The anuvrats all say to the best of your ability and the limit that you set. So you could say, I'm only going to have, 500 pairs of clothes. And that's fine, that's allowed. But even then we don't take it, just in case we're walking and we see something we like and, we might want another one. So the idea of this is to find a way to drop your attachment.
Yeah,
So-
I just wanted to ask you, when it comes to the community sense.
Yeah.
As an individual, when we talk about as an individual person,
Mm,
when we are doing it as a massive community organization,
mm,
how and ways we should be changing in ourselves, when we should be, we have committees, we have community of volunteers, and everything like that.
Yeah.
So what we learn, your knowledge, what you are teaching us, but then when we have to put that in practice, I wanted you to tell me and all the people who are sitting here at this moment, and also the rest of the people who are, I think are in different rooms, that the fact of how do they fit in that in community sense.
You see, the idea is to do two things. One is to not be unrestrained, right? So I have seen people, my late father was one of them, who would only take, for example, 5 items of food at any point. So even if he was eating here, he'd only pick up 5 things and that's it. That's his limit for the day. Yeah. So the idea of restriction is not a bad thing. Having, limits on things. And the second is to have limits on the things that you do, in the sense that from a community perspective, what they should be is, and you see this in some communities, that, I was at Hare Krishna the other day, and they only have one thing for prasad on that day, and that's it. Everybody who comes gets the same thing. They only have, so, the idea of that means that it's not open to desire. You're there for a purpose, and the purpose of everything else is to support you in what you're there for. It's not there for you to come, that I'm going to come and have a huge lunch. I'm not going to come and, meet my, and this is the idea of this vow, that in restricting things, it means that your mind becomes firmer in being able to say yes or no to anything. Today, what happens is most people have weaknesses. If somebody offers me montar and I really love montar, I have to have it. So the idea is, how do you stop that? So that your mind is in control of, that you're in control of your mind, and not your mind is not in control of you. And this is the whole idea. And when you look at community, it's the same thing. That today, the way to apply this from a community thing is by setting restrictions, not by making the limits so large that what it does is that it means it becomes the focus of what people do, rather than just being here as a supplement. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and I think you have partially answered it, but I think I wanted to know the religious point of view as well, that during the time of Puja, it is 8 days of time spending here, and we should be restricting ourselves as in the world of the fact that we live in advanced technology world, and the fact that, we are always constantly saying we're busy, but then we're giving our time to be here, and then on top of that, we are also kind of indulging a lot of things that shouldn't be the case, but we should be also concentrating on learning and taking in things that to improve as soon as we finish 8 days to carry on. Hence, like the way you said later on, that what would you give up for 24 hours in your prayers? And the fact is that at the end of the day, what I'm asking here, that what we should serve and how much we should serve, is there some sort of guidance regarding partition times, or isn't there?
So the big difference, there are two big differences, and these are the reasons for this. Firstly, because we don't have sadhus here.
Yeah.
If we had, we would have to live like they live because we were living with them. Okay, so that changes things. The second is because people now, we're not in the rainy season, we're in the middle of summer, not everybody is free. And so all of that reasoning goes. But if you look at it within that context, then in that context, and it still happens in many places in India, is that the whole day is spent on the inside. And by that I mean in doing swadhyay, reading, learning, whatever. So you're actually focused on improving your knowledge, improving your faith, and making your conduct purer, and living with people who are also in that path. Now we don't have those two luxuries. So what happens here is that the people who organize this have to do it in a way that means that anybody who comes at any time of day is actually getting some benefit out of it, and so it's very different. But I agree, there are ways to do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
I
Thank
just
you.
want to comment on the point
Yeah.
on that, from a coordinator's perspective for Parayusha.
Please.
What we're trying to change is that when people are coming here and partaking, what is it we can do? Sometimes I use the word insular as a community, but actually we need to think about what we can do for other communities. So not just what we do within these four walls, so to speak.
Yeah.
A very tiny example is, for example, our food bank. You come here every day, we're sitting here, bring a tin, but that tin would help someone outside.
Yeah.
So, and the power of a community, me doing that on my own is not as powerful as 1,000 people doing that together. And everyone kind of having that common thought to do the same thing, and the difference that that can make as an impact.
And you see, you have to remember also that today, we're Navnathmanik Association of the UK and whatever. In times gone by, people weren't organized like this. It was community, and whoever lived in that community was community. Whatever their belief, whatever their trade, whatever their outlook. And so, doing things for the community is absolutely right. What has happened over time is we've become institutionalized. And now, Navnath follows this path and Oshwal goes this way. And to some extent, what it means is that community is kind of lost. But we need to, absolutely. People are no different. Their beliefs might be different, but they're not any different. And for us, kindness shouldn't be limited to these people that I like. One other thing I'll say, just come to you, is that I often say this on the last day, that, we love to say Michami Dukram, but to our friends and family and people we know, and we give them a hug and say Michami Dukram, go and say it to your enemies. Go and say it to the people you hate. Go and say it to the people who wronged you. And go and say it to those who won't say it back to you, because you will release yourself. Right? And by releasing yourself, what will happen is those thoughts and those vampires in your head and the demons, and they'll all go. But if you hold on to it, whilst you're doing it, you're burning yourself. The other person doesn't even realize you've got these, views and thoughts, but inside you're killing yourself. And so if you go and do that, again, it's the right way in which to move forward.
Just jumping there as well. There's, as I say, the Rekha's question, there are two parts to it, the spiritual part and the material part. Now, I can answer her in the material part, because we have to be sustainable in this world. If we don't, then the world isn't going to exist as we know it now. So that is one way. I don't know in terms of spiritual requirement, what we could do in terms of community. That is quite a complicated question.
You see, spiritually, there are now so many things that have changed. If you look at this Pratikraman, for example, when I was young, you would have to learn it as a young in the Patsha and understand the meanings. You would read Gujarati and therefore you could understand it. None of this happens, right? Secondly, our lives were family orientated. None of that happens. Now they're WhatsApp orientated, or Zoom or Facebook or whatever. And thirdly, people now, because of whatever reason, have other competing pressures. So today, you try and organize Pratikraman here. It wasn't that long ago, I remember, that you come to Pratikraman at Nauna, it would be packed, the hall would be packed. And I remember Savatsari Pratikraman, you would have to come a couple of hours early if you wanted a place. It's not the case anymore. So the question is, and you see, it's not just us. If you go into a synagogue or a church on a Sunday, they're empty. It is this idea of belief has disappeared. Why? Because now there is so much on the internet. People don't have belief. They think I can read it and the problem with that is that who knows whether what's on the internet is correct? Who's policing that? And so we've kind of given up belief. And in that, we've given up that sort of way of life. The question or the challenge for all of us is how do we make this relevant so that in one generation or two generations, it doesn't disappear? Because today, if there are no people who are 30 here, that means that they're not going to be here when they're 50. And so in two generations, that's the end of this.
Well, I've got a quick question.
Sure.
The session we had today, does that same thing apply to the Ravasi as well? The Pratikraman we did today. The Tanakwasi
It wasn't Stanakwasi. It was basically following the 6 Avasha, which everybody has. Which everybody has. What happens in a Deravasi context is because they have Derasas, that they're a bit more ritualistic in their process. But even with this, we've stripped out everything that is said multiple times to make it.
Why have idols? Why don't we do what we think the Deravasi do?
Because we don't actually believe in those rituals. We don't practice.
Sorry?
We don't believe in those rituals. We don't practice them because we don't believe in idol worship and anything like that. Yes. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so, you said when we do, crime or violence, with our karmas. We don't do personally, watch TV or serials, they're also violence and stuff. So still watching them and enjoying them. Am I going to get the karma?
Am I going to kill Netflix here? The answer is this, and there is an answer to this. When you see kids who play games, video games, and there are so many examples that when they play violent video games, and they do it, regularly, they start to build that sort of mindset. It becomes, this is the way I've got to do it. And they see, and what happens is that in these games, when they hit somebody, they get rewarded with points and gold stars and whatever. So they don't see that as a wrong, it blurs it. So anything you do in moderation is always okay. But if you're watching it every day, and just think about this, that if you watch any Indian serial, any British serial, none of them are happy.
No.
They have to gossip, people have to die,
Yeah.
somebody has to get hit, somebody has to get and we love to see these things. And it becomes we become addicted to these sorts of things. And you never see any of them where people are just happy and they're happily talking. I mean, it wouldn't sell. Newspapers are the same. Okay. So what you have to do when I say moderation is whatever you put into your mind becomes part of your thoughts. And if you keep putting things in and you do anything, you put violence in, you become addicted to it. Anything that controls your mind, because it gives you a small amount of happiness, satisfaction, thrill, whatever you call it. And that over time you become addicted to. So that's the way you get excited. And that addiction actually starts to become, that's the problem.
Sorry, last part. તમે કીધું વિછાવી દુકરણ તમે તમારા મિત્રોને જઈને કહો, something. But if you find it difficult to face to that person, how do you wash your વિછાવી દુકરણ? Can you do it just તમારી medicine?
This is your trigger. This is your swimming pool.
And then more WhatsApp message.
You have to get to a point where you just go up, say it, and don't have any. And that is not easy, but what that will do is actually get rid of your fear. Now, fear is something that is inbuilt in all of us. The way out of fear is to remember that nothing can happen to you unless it's your karma. Right? You can't die until your Ayush karma finishes. You can't, nothing can happen. So if you, with that sort of view, go and do it, you'll be fine. But you have to overcome that fear. It's a lesson. If you don't, you know, and the problem is it becomes like the swimming pool. Every time you go there, you don't want to go there, you turn around, you go back.
I've had experience where I've said which I'm looking for individuals and they'll turn around and say, well, what have I done? It's like, you know, thrown back at you.
And you say, you might have done something knowingly or unknowingly.
Yeah.
And
But
that is it.
I find that very interesting because it makes you think,
Yeah.
why did I say which I'm looking for this person?
For you, not for them.
Okay.
It's always for you.
But sometimes you don't you don't
Forgiveness.
see them at all.
You see,
And then see them suddenly.
no, but the problem is with forgiveness is that the other person might not even realize that you're feeling like this. So, or they might be feeling even worse. So by saying it, what you're doing is you're releasing yourself. You can't do anything for somebody else. You can never do something for somebody else, remember that. All you can do is help them help themselves. If you're teaching a child to learn, you can sit next to them and they will sit and learn, but you can't read the book and then, you know, give it to them and say, okay, let's learn now.
But the best experience I've had this version, which I'm sharing with everyone, although it should be in a way confidential. I'm not mentioning names, but one individual was annoyed about something that happened 2 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago. I didn't realize that she was annoyed about it. But it was not even thought of. And suddenly she came up to me and said, why did you say that to me? Why did you say that to me? Why me? And I'm saying, forgive me, it was not meant to harm you. It was just a joke. And she said, no, it wasn't a joke. And immediately I said, Michami Dupra. Said, because this pollution. Said Michami Dupra to you if you are hurting in any way. But in all honesty, I have not hurt you.
But you see,
Believe me.
the interesting thing in that.
Let me finish. He didn't believe me. It took me by a complete surprise. I don't know how to well. Just we happened to be on holiday together, shared it with her. At that time she laughed and it was quite okay. She even joked back at me. I accepted it. But then the next day she came up to me and she started giving me saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I said that. And I said, it's okay, as long as you understood. I was trying to tell you to calm you down. You said that no harm was done to you. Definitely not intentionally. But if you misunderstood me, then it's unknowingly for me. And that's why I seek forgiveness from you. She said, yes, but no, you're not wrong, you're not wrong. And for me, I found it peaceful that she was at peace and not, you know, I wasn't hurting. It's the fact that she was at peace, finally.
But you see, this is interesting, worth learning from. That after 2 weeks,
Yes.
so for
that's
2
always
weeks,
in her mind.
for 2 weeks,
Yes.
this thought keeps
I know.
going.
And
And because you haven't released it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You are sitting there, in this anxiety,
Yeah.
you're missing everything else in life and you're binding
But she was
karma.
there on Friday, she didn't mention anything to me, and I'm thinking, why, the worst thing was for me, was, oh, this is my first operation, if this is happening today, God help me, what's gonna happen next, It's kind of immediately you think negative, you don't want
Yeah.
to, but I prayed for her, says, hopefully God, she forgives me. And I was so happy when she was happy the next day.
I think there was one question at the back.
Yeah, is that fresh? I don't know whether it's an appropriate question or not, and I apologize for that. I know you're giving examples of the next car accidents. How about these youngsters who are getting killed, or, innocently young, lives taken? When you say because of the criminal.
Yes.
This is why I'm saying, is somebody just going to get knocked off from where they so has to be very.
The way to think about this, in an interesting way, it's a sad way, but it's an interesting, is that there was a plane crash in Ahmedabad recently.
Yeah.
One person survived. And if you analyze all the people who survive plane crashes, there is no correlation with where they sit. And that's what karma is, that it basically, when it's your time to go. Now, the question that some people say is that how can it be that all of this karma finished at the same time? And the answer is simple. Karma is a physical particle, it's quantity, okay? If you have a towel that's wet and it's got water in it, it's wet, and you put it in a room like this, or you put it outside where there's wind and hot sun, the rate at which that water evaporates is different. The same quantity, but it can be made to evaporate quicker. This is what happens. So when somebody dies, yes, it's sad, but it is that karma, because when they think about karma as a bank balance, Ayush karma, that at the end of the life, your bank balance decides how much your next life is going to be. That bank balance wasn't that big, but in that death, if somebody else is responsible, then what they've done is become a catalyst. We call it a limit in this scenario where they've now bound the karma of that death, even though it wasn't, they were not the cause, but they were the catalyst that actually resulted in the death. And so in this, you have both consequences, that the person died because of their karma, but somebody else who assisted that death has now bound that karma, and they will have to suffer that as well. So yes, and this is why when you look at places like Gaza or Ukraine today, this is why we're in the 5th era of suffering, because this is now what you're seeing more and more of, that, there might be 8 billion people on this planet, but 90% are not comfortable. And that's because we're now a place where people with heavy karma come to suffer. Sadly. On that unhappy note.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melvin. Very, very informative talks. I think everybody just absolutely loves it. Exactly.